Thank you very much. This may be the first and last time you ever have had anyone who worked in a Bush administration addressing you. So the book that I just published, which is The Death and Life of the Great American School System, How Testing and Choice Are Undermining Education, is a very personal story for me, but it's also an analysis of how testing and choice are undermining education. I think with testing, it's become clear that the focus on testing and accountability is very punitive. It has not produced the results that we were promised. The latest reading scores came out 2 days ago showing that despite the fact that state after state, including New York State, holds an annual press conference to talk about how our scores are greater than ever, they go up every year, and yet we look at the national scores and there's a flat line. Flat line from 2002 to 2009 for fourth grade, a flat line from 1998. Yeah, I'll try. The reading scores on the National Assessment of Educational Progress are flat for 8th grade from 1998 to the present. So No Child Left Behind has produced, if you believe in at least the federal test scores, which I think they have validity because no one can prepare for them, the federal test scores say that No Child Left Behind has been a failure. What it has done, in addition to producing no academic improvement, is that it has narrowed the curriculum. American students are not doing better in any other subject because they have less time to study science and history and geography, literature, civics, foreign languages. There's simply total focus on the scores because the scores will determine whether your school lives or dies. What No Child Left Behind has also done has been to create an unrealistic goal for public education in which the Congress said that by the year 2014, 100% of all children will be proficient. And if they're not, as you advance towards that date, the school will be closed, the staff will be fired, and this is a goal that we'll never reach. If the year 2030, 100% of children will not be proficient. But by setting this target, which was unreachable, it created a sense amongst the public and the media that the schools are failing because they're nowhere near 100% proficient. We're, at least judged by the federal test scores, about a third of the kids are proficient. So it creates a pressure towards privatization. The more failure there is, or the more appearance of failure, the more out of reach the goal, the more the pressure for privatization. So not coincidentally, one of the remedies of No Child Left Behind is if your school doesn't meet the targets that are set for every group in the school, you privatize the school. You turn it to a charter school, you turn it to private management, it goes to state control. There are all these draconian, drastic remedies for schools, and there's no analysis of why the school is low performing. Usually it's low performing because there are many kids who don't speak English, who need extra assistance, who need smaller classes, who need resources, and who are not getting them. But no matter, the school will suffer these penalties. So you have simultaneously, with No Child Left Behind, this tremendous pressure to reach an unattainable goal, delegitimation of public education, and at the same time, schools being turned over to the private sector. We now have a voracious private sector, and it's funded in large measure not only by the federal government, not only by the Congress, but by the major foundations. And I have a chapter in my book called The Billionaire Boys Club. And the Billionaire Boys Club, and at least in my telling, consists of the Walton Family Foundation, which is the owners of Walmart, and also the Gates Foundation, which is now the biggest foundation in the U.S. and possibly in the world, and the Eli Broad Foundation. The Eli Broad Foundation is very interesting. Joel Klein is the chairman of its board, by the way. The Eli Broad Foundation is committed to charter schools, and the Gates Foundation and the Eli Broad Foundation together are committed to the idea that teachers should be evaluated based on their student test scores. And I have a chapter devoted to explaining why this is a stupid idea, because test scores are influenced by many things, not just by teacher effectiveness. And there will be many states and many districts in which teachers simply won't want to teach because if they're going to be judged by student test scores, they will not want to teach kids with special needs. They will not want to teach ELLs because the difficulty of getting those, whether it's growth, however you measure it, they're being given an impossible burden. I can't tell you, since my book came out a month ago, the number of emails I'm getting from teachers across the country talking about the demoralization amongst the ranks of teachers, that there is now this narrative, this meta-narrative. Teachers, if students are not 100% proficient, it's the teacher's fault. Forget about poverty. Joel Klein and Michelle Rhee agree. poverty is an excuse. Let's not talk about poverty. Let's only talk about the teachers, because the teachers can do anything. They say this again and again, that when scores are not up, it's the teacher's fault, and only the teacher's fault. Let's not talk about the health of the children, the well-being of the family, the nature of the community. If Detroit is a disaster, let's not talk about the economic conditions of Detroit. Let's only talk about the teachers. Well, this is a way to destroy the teaching profession. So instead of building a profession, what we've been doing for the past 10 years is destroying the profession. We have superintendents who've never worked in a school. They went to school, but they've never worked in a school. So all they know about is test scores and data. And they'll do everything by the data, not knowing that the data itself is flawed and is usually based on very instruments that have a lot of random variation. I'll put it that way, these tests that they're using. Then we have principals, tremendous encouragement of principals who themselves have either never taught or have taught for a year or two and want to be a principal, so they take a one-year course called How to Be a Leader. And then they're now in charge of evaluating teachers who need help. But they can't help them because they themselves are not master teachers. And then there's this great push that, well, I'll go to the Newsweek article from last week. If you saw it, the cover was called The Key to Saving American Education. The key to saving American education is firing bad teachers. Apparently there are bad teachers everywhere, so the way you fire bad teachers is you get rid of teachers' unions, and then you look to New Orleans as a model of educational excellence, because New Orleans eliminated public education, created non-union charter schools, and now they're making great progress. Well, I've been in contact with a guy in Tulane, whose name is Lance Hill. Lance Hill has been following the New Orleans developments very closely, and he says 60% of the kids in New Orleans are in private charter schools. The other 40% are in the recovery district. The 40% who are in the recovery district are kids who can't pass the state test. Their failure rate is about 85%. And the reason they're not in charter schools is the charter schools don't want them. So they've created this two-tier system of the kids who have promise and who get scores in the charter schools. The kids that nobody wants, the 40%, forget about them. That's where we're moving, is this kind of two-tiered system.